Lucy Griffiths, and so lovely to see you here today. I'm talking confidence. And very often, confidence is this kind of all-encompassing word that can basically be an excuse or a reason that we don't follow through and we don't do the things that we really want to do and that we dream of doing, whether that is in running our business, whether that's going for the job we want, whether that is standing up for the school play, whatever it might be. There are these points in our lives where we think there's a little voice in our head, and that voice in our head takes over from who we really are. One of the great ways to get around it, I really like Mel Robbins' 5-second rule, which basically is anything you want to do, before that kind of pause and hesitation kicks in, count down from 5. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you just have to do it. And it's so often it is a case of just doing it, just putting your hand up, just saying, yes, I'll do it, without actually thinking it through and thinking, oh God, that scares me. I don't know what I'm going to do. And very often we are doing these things that intimidate us, that scare us. And then the doubts creep in. So I remember, luckily I've always had bosses that would give me a gentle or not so gentle, you're going, and make me do things. I remember when I was first being sent to North Korea, and my boss, I said, yes, I'll go. And I was living in Beijing, so it's just an hour's flight away. But I was a bit scared. And I remember my boss being like, you have to go. And so I plucked up the courage and I got on the plane and I went, and it was totally fine and it was absolutely not scary at all. But there are these moments where we think that we are scared, that we're intimidated, that we can't do something. And very often, if you listen to the voice in your head, that you won't get anywhere, you won't do anything. And you almost have to park that one to one side and just propel yourself forward, move forward. When you start moving forward, when you start doing the things that you really want to do, then suddenly it's like, oh, that's perfectly achievable, perfectly doable. So how do you do that? So if you've got the voice in your head that is the nagging voice, just become conscious of it, become aware of it, and really hone in on that voice and start thinking about that voice so you can, recognize it. And you can, when you recognize it, you can push it to one side, you can say not useful. And by just pushing it to one side very gently, or even, by saying, thank you, that's, a really good thought, but actually, I'm going to do this and we're going to be okay. And telling yourself, being kind to yourself and saying, we're going to be okay, we can do this, we can do this. And by saying that, I used to just say, you can do this, you can do it. And by telling yourself that you can really do it, even when you're scared, it's amazing what you can achieve, what momentum you can get to propel you forward. And whether that is, going to North Korea, or whether that is setting up our own business is really scary and intimidating. And, it's not an easy ride at all. And, when I first set up my business, I was really not sure what I was doing. And I knew that I just had to keep going. And luckily I had another business up and running, my Airbnb business. So I kind of had two on the go, so that it wasn't a situation of, oh gosh, I can't afford to do this, it has to work. I had that cushion as well. When you're first starting out, it's really important to give yourself that breathing space. Give yourself that oomph all the time, so that if you think, I can't do that talk or I can't do that podcast, just think to yourself, what would 11-year-old Lucy do? What would she do? And there are moments in our lives where we are much braver than perhaps we are now. I certainly as a teenager was much braver than I am now, and I had this overriding sort of superpower belief in myself. And so I have to think back to those moments and think, what would she do? And she'd be much more gung-ho. And it's tapping into that person, tapping into the gung-ho version of yourself, where you can say, okay, what would 5-year-old Lucy do? And in that occasion, like really connect into that person. And if you think, oh, she wouldn't do that because she was a really fearful child, you know, it's often your fearful inner child, the person that you were when you were 5 or 10 or whatever, that is the person that's holding you back. So maybe you need to talk to that person very kindly and learn to flip the switch. So thinking about how you can encourage and motivate that person so that they feel like they're brought along for the ride and they feel much safer. So, you know, for me, this is slightly off on a tangent, but I always had a feeling that I was a failure at everything. So I had to very kindly talk to myself as a young girl and explain that I didn't fail at everything. And so once I did that, then I could move forward. So in the same way, if confidence is your thing and you don't like putting yourself out there, be kind to yourself and think back to that moment, that key pivotal moment in your life where you did feel uncomfortable, where you did feel unconfident. And what was that moment? What was that thing, that time where you were unsure of yourself? And how did you overcome it? How did you overcome your fears? And when you can kind of recognize the pattern, both of when you stopped yourself doing things and also the times where you, even though you felt scared, you embraced that challenge, that change, whether it was like going for the driving test or standing up in the school play, tap into that same feeling you had and the same resources that you brought to bear, that you remembered, whether that was like telling yourself, giving yourself a pep talk, whether that was writing things down, or just having a conversation with your mum, whatever it is that was like your motivating thing. Tap into that again. So, you know, you can have an imaginary conversation with your mom and just remember that kind of feeling of motivation. And when you've got that, be your best friend and be your own source of motivation. Be your source of inner confidence and inner wisdom to help yourself move forward and do the things that scare you. Okay, I'm going to love you and leave you. But, you know, really think how you can tap into this. And I can't wait to speak to you soon. Much love.